The following is a bonus episode of B2B or Not to Be, taken from our webinar, Dissecting the Marketing Dilemma. Enjoy.
Good morning and welcome to our webinar this morning on Dissecting the Marketing Dilemma. My name is Daniel O'Connor. I'm a director here at Transform, and we are here at Transform Towers this morning with Jenny Robertson, who is the head of marketing at CHC Global and Samphire Risk, and Jacob Aitken, who is co-founder and director of Aitken Legal Marketing. Today, we're going to be talking about the challenges within marketing and why or why not you could or should outsource your marketing to an external agency. Outsourcing marketing works in many ways. When working within an organization, whether you are a marketing director or a marketing or a business owner, I beg your pardon, there are challenges whereby you may hire a marketing director, a marketing manager, but it's having the ample amount of skill sets required to be able to then deliver on the outputs that are needed. Jenny, I'm going to go to you first, if I may. Could you please introduce your organizations that you work for?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So Jenny Robertson, head of marketing for CHC Global and its subsidiary Samphire Risk. We operate in the B2B world, and it's quite a complex world. So we look after, or the context of our work is within terrorism, political violence, kidnap for ransom, extortion, protest, riot, which everybody says when I talk kidnap for ransom, oh, do you work with really high net worth people, celebrities? The answer is no, not really. So what we do is we look at how can individuals and organizations understand the risks that they've got. And that might be managing the risks through their security strategies, or that might be transferring their risks through buying insurance products. So essentially, we help people build strategies or buy insurance products. And that's the world of CHC Global and Samphire Risk. I'm the head of marketing, and I've been with the company, which is a scale-up business of about 25 people for about 2 or 3 years.
Fantastic, thank you. And Jacob, would you like to introduce Aitken and what you guys do over at Aitken, please?
Yep, certainly. It's nothing as exciting as Jenny. I'll start by saying that. I am a director and co-founder of Aitken Legal Marketing. We were founded in 2015. We currently have a team of almost 60. We are a global company, so we are a remote business. We have people all over the world, although I would say the majority of our team are based in the UK. What we fundamentally do is legal marketing, but we really work within a very niche area of legal marketing. So primarily, we are helping firms with their legal directory submissions. Through that process, they can improve their rankings. By improving their rankings, they can generate more business. So we are B2B as well in that respect. We have around about 220 law firm clients around the world, and we work with everything from very, very small boutique law firms of maybe just 2 or 3 individuals all the way through to some of the world's largest law firms. Currently work with half of the top 10 law firms globally by revenue. So we do have some very, very large clients on our books.
Amazing. Thank you. I'd like to open this discussion up around the fact that we all work in a B2B capacity. So we work with organizations globally as you do and as you do, Jenny. And the common challenges that we face is trying to reach the tend to be hard to reach people that work within complex organizations. So how do you, Jenny, Jake, how do you break down those barriers? How do you open those doors? How do you start those conversations?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. It is not easy. So in our world and in my business, we can be talking to a whole range of different people. So we can be talking to insurance buyers who've got policies, who are renewing, who know when they're coming up for renewal and will be picking up the phone. We also deal with very complex situations. And for a lot of those businesses, they might not appreciate that they might need our services,
Yep.
often until it may be a bit too late. So a lot of what we do is just starting conversations with people and trying to get on their radar. So where they're at the point to make a decision about how they're managing their malicious risks, they'll pick up the phone to us. So that might be through sending out thought leadership. It might be around generating content. It's just generally having a drumbeat where we can add value and provide them with interesting and informative things that demonstrate our expertise, but also resonate with them. So it's a very long game, I would say.
It's a similar experience for us in many ways. Our marketplace, our target audience is law firms. We only represent or only work with law firms. And within those law firms, we're trying to reach either the CMOs or the managing partners of the law firms, fundamentally the people who hold the purse strings and can move forward with hiring us. And I think, as Jenny said, it's about getting on the radar of those people. And these are very busy lawyers if they're managing partners, or very busy marketers if they are CMOs. And unless we are visible, instantly visible to them and in the back of their minds when they're making decisions about who or how they're going to handle their legal directory submissions, then it's going to be very, very difficult for us to get hired. The way it works for us is that most of these law firms will manage this process anyway. They will go through the process of putting together legal directory submissions. They will go through the process of trying to improve their rankings, but they'll often do it internally. So what often happens to us when we start these conversations, we're able to open the doors, is actually these managing partners, CMOs will say to us, we just never knew that a company like yours existed. And so our challenge is to make sure that all of these people globally know that a company like ours does exist, and we can actually take that process away from them, do it better, and save them time on the process as well.
I think we have a similar problem. We're quite unique in that we do risk management and insurance.
Yeah.
And when you can see sometimes the light bulb come on and people go, oh my God, I didn't realize that you did that. Oh, that is so helpful. Yes, I can understand now where you can add value to my business and how I might want to work with you. And I think, I don't know what you find, but we, for us, there might be a whole host of different decision makers in different businesses, in different industries. So it's really hard for us to say it's that person we need to speak to, because it's so complex. It could be different. Yeah, it's different wherever you are.
Yeah. And then I suppose similarly to us, dependent upon the size of the organization that you are looking to work with, or vice versa, coming to you to work with you, it's who do you need to speak to within that organization? Because if you're speaking to a boutique law firm, you might be speaking directly to the partners and the lawyers themselves. Whereby if you were going into one of the larger or the top 100 law firms, they'll have business development teams, they'll have marketing teams that would tend to handle those submissions. Would that be correct, Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. So identifying who it is and then working out how to open the door to a conversation with that person, and that two-step challenge is always going to be in place. And because we work globally, the challenges differ slightly depending on the market. So, marketing in each of the respective jurisdictions, countries we work in, will be at a slightly different level of development. So if we go into a lot of the Latin American countries we work in, for example, we would expect that those law firms to have invested less in marketing over the years. They're probably a little bit behind where we would be in the UK, for example. They won't have the size of marketing team. So just trying to work out what level we are going in at, who holds the purse strings, who is able to make decisions about hiring us. But that's only the first part of the challenge. You then got to open the door, which is, the tricky bit.
Yeah. And what sort of objections do you get when you're going into a law firm from said teams? Do you get barriers put up at different levels, would you say?
I think there are two ways it can work for us. There are two ways that the situation will unfold. So the first is that the internal marketing, business development, comms team, whatever you call it, depends on the specific law firm. But there are situations, thankfully more often than not, where they will be very, very relieved to have us on board. So they'll be thrilled by the opportunity to send some of the work they historically have done our way. It gives them more time to work on other initiatives, and probably the sorts of initiatives that they went into marketing business development to do in the first place. They didn't go into it to do what we do, which is, a sort of niche area and a little bit boring for them in terms of their day-to-day work. The other situation that arises sometimes is we actually feel a little bit of pushback from those internal marketing teams, because I think there can be a concern about some of their job security. If you're working with a team of 5, one of that team of 5 may be quite focused on the legal directory process, which is what we're coming in to do. And we're saying to them, outsource this to us, we'll do it better than you, will save you time. And in those situations, I think the challenge is the challenge circles around building that relationship. So us having those conversations from the outset and saying, we're not here to take your job.
Yeah.
We need you on the inside. We need someone inside who can help us run this. The stronger the relationship we build, the better the work is going to be, and the better the ROI the firm is going to get on hiring us in the first place. And that will work well for both of us. But it is a challenge, making sure that they're not too suspicious about what our intentions are is the tricky bit. And I think once you're over that hurdle, it's fine.
Do you see similar in your organization?
Well, I guess you're kind of outsourcing a market, almost an element of their marketing. Yep. So there's not really any comparisons in what we do. They might be outsourcing things that they don't have the time or the resources to do within their business. But it's around prioritizing that. And then we'll get an approach. Yeah. Brilliant.
So I'm going to move on slightly in terms of the relationships that we have. And you used that word a moment ago, Jacob. It was relationship. And I think that's very key and fundamental to what we all do within our businesses. And it's about trust, I think, with what we do and what we do with you guys and all of our clients. It's that ability to be able to be open, honest, trustworthy, and have what I would call a spade is a spade conversation at times. What we like to do at Transform is really get to understand the core of the business, the objectives. And it's not just about what you're trying to achieve in the next 6 months or 12 months. As you know, we've gone through the process with you. We're looking at the 3, 4, 5-year objectives of where the business is now and where it wants to be. Jake, we started working with Kid Aitken about 3 years, exactly 3 years ago, actually. Could you tell us what your decision was? So actually, I'm gonna change that up. There are 3 ways that we work with our client base, I would say. So there is a fully outsourced service that we do, whereby we will go in and act as marketing directors. We will do everything from the strategy right through to the delivery, and we can do that for years and years and years for organizations. With both Kid Aitken and with CHC Global and Samphire Risk, we more supplement because you've got that in-house ability and function. Yourself as head of marketing, Jenny, and Jake, you've got a wonderful commercial director in Rob, and then yourself and Daniel also supplement with your own skill sets. But and then some of our clients have large internal teams and they outsource just parts to us. So it might be that we create video, we might build their website and maintain their website and do SEO. But Jake, we started working with you 3 years ago, and the landscape was slightly different then because you have grown dramatically since then. I think you were a 23 headcount 3 years ago, and you're up around the 60 now. What was your decision-making process in terms of speaking to us and then hiring Transform, please?
So my business partner and I had been working as consultants on our own for around about 5 years. We joined forces in 2015 with the vision of building a company, the vision of building the biggest company and the leading company in this sector. We were always conscious of the fact that we needed to dedicate some time and some resource to marketing. But in the early growth stages of the business, it was very, very difficult to do that. And we always had one eye on it, but actually, did we have the time to invest in marketing? Not really. It always slipped down the list of priorities. I think in around about around about sort of 6 years in, I guess, 4 to 5 years in, we decided that we should hire someone to do the marketing, because all the ideas we had about how to market ourselves were never actually turning into a reality. You know, we had this long list to do. We just kept jotting things down and saying, we'll come to it at some point. Never came around to it. So we did a bit of research on how much, you know, what percentage of our revenue we should be spending on marketing. It seemed like quite a lot. You know, the sort of the general consensus of how much, you know, what portion of revenue you should spend seemed like a lot to us at that point, because we were reinvesting a lot in development and growth of the business. So we decided to take on a fixed cost and have a marketing manager in-house, and we know exactly what that cost would be. That didn't last very long. With hindsight, I don't think it was the right decision. And when it didn't really work out, we then found you guys, or you guys found us. And we effectively at that point outsourced our marketing function to Transform Communications. So we decided not to carry on pursuing the building the development of an internal market capability, and decided to outsource it. Things have changed a little bit. So in the last year, we have now, as you mentioned earlier, we've brought in a commercial director, and we're building that commercial director's team. So we're now sort of more of a hybrid. We have Transform Communications as our external marketing agency, who still do the majority of our marketing, but we are building that in-house capability, and then we're looking to, you know, the challenge, I guess, over the next year or two will be balancing that out. So we're making the best use of our internal capability and the best use of our external agency.
Absolutely. I think that's the best way that these relationships work, because with the best will in the world, a lot of organizations will not hire a full-time videographer and somebody that can post-produce. You may need to produce 5, 10, 15 videos per year, but you can do that in a few days and start to release them as the year goes through if you plan it correctly, whereby you hire somebody to do that full time. Once you've got your videos, you don't need them for the remainder of the year.
And Transform is, you know, for us, handling a huge range of marketing initiatives that internally it would be impossible for us to handle. We would be able to focus on 1 or 2 of those internally, rather than the sort of 5 or 6 areas that we're doing simultaneously with Transform. And then I just want to pick up on something you said just a moment ago about trust. And I think there's something that sort of underpins that, if you like. And I think that's an understanding of the business. So we trust you, yes, and we need to know that we trust our marketing agency. But I think that only comes about when you really take time to understand the business of your clients. So what we have to do the same as a marketing agency with our clients. You know, it's about using the right language when you're talking to your client. In the same way, you know, you understand the legal sector and law firms and how they work, and use the right sort of language to describe that. And if you don't have that deep sector specific knowledge and understanding, I just don't think you get to that level of trust. I think that only comes as a second step in that process of getting to know your clients. And I think I'm wearing 2 hats here, because I the owner of a marketing company, but I also use Transform Communications as our external marketing agency. But in both the situations, I see that working, you know, as a fundamental basis for the development of a successful, you know, working relationship.
Thank you. And Jenny, from your own perspective, because obviously you're incredibly experienced in marketing, and you've got a long history of marketing, with and I'll let you explain that. Actually, I won't try to.
So I started my career agency side for a few years, and then I went into Lloyds Banking Group, and I worked there for just shy of 20 years, which is, I think, really where I earned my trade, learned the basics, really, it was top class what we were doing there. And I took the decision to leave there. And when I left, I remember going into my first job and somebody saying to me, and it was a small business, somebody saying, you know, can you do this? And I went to pick up the phone and thought, I've got nobody to pick up the phone to, it's me. And I think what I realized is actually we were very experienced specialists, almost project managers. So we did all have a brilliant marketing background, and we knew our marketing discipline really well, there was always somebody to pick up the phone to. There was obviously an agency, we used the big London agencies on the other side of the phone who would, do things for us, from making a small amend to the website to putting a social media post out, whatever. And then coming into, then I started freelancing and working for smaller businesses. And I think having sort of the right agencies around you is really important. So I freelanced for probably about 8 years. And the nature of freelancing is probably that you're going into a business that's in some kind of transition.
Yeah.
Either they're growing or they've stalled or they're reopening or whatever they might be doing. And I think in those situations, they don't necessarily want to employ somebody full time because they're trying to figure out their territory and where they're going and what they want to do for marketing. So from my point of view, I've always tried to make sure that I understand what the business objectives are, understand what the role of the marketing team is really early on, and then figure out what I need around me to be able to deliver what that business wants. So when I came into this job, which is at CHC and Samphire, it's quite interesting what Jake was saying, that actually I think our business is, I don't actually know how old Transform is. I don't know how long you've been in existence, but we've probably been as clients been in existence a similar number of years. So the CEO of our business had run the business for about 3 years and then brought on a head of marketing, which is me. And I think I'd worked with Transform for a previous client, but I think what's quite important is that finding an agency that is of a similar maturity to you in terms of the skills of the agency, where they are as a business. And I think when you look up, key things, which I did before coming here to remind myself, when you're choosing an agency, what you should look for. And I think the key thing is culture. And I think we have that in that culturally we're very similar, but also as businesses and on our business path to growth, we're in a similar place. Yep. And so we get where each other's coming from and what we need to do. I've totally forgotten what your question was.
No, and you've actually raised a really good point there, because one of the problems and challenges that we see from the other side, from our client side, is that they think the silver bullet is to hire a marketing manager, marketing director, and they will deliver everything that you need to deliver. And that will be, it's a single salary, and they'll be able to do everything from the website to video to SEO to paid for social campaigns. Yeah. And that's not the reality, unfortunately. It's nobody can do that, all of those jobs in one.
No, and it depends on your product, doesn't it? It depends on the product or service that you're selling. And I've worked a lot in the service sector, and it's the product marketing alone is not going to get you sales. It's not going to get you bums on seats. It's a whole, it's a whole business. They say, well, it takes a village to bring up a child. It takes a whole business to get sales in at some point. So marketing can do so much, but we can't do everything.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if your sales and marketing are not aligned, and they're not talking to each other, that's another challenge or problem that we see in businesses, that sales blame marketing, marketing blame sales, because they're not aligned, they're not joined, they're not working together.
And I think that I think they can be very different people with very different focuses, but I think working together and working collaboratively is key. And I think if you're in an organization that puts value on that, and where that is important, then everybody will work to help each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what would you say, Jenny, are the main challenges that you face within your role? Because you don't have a big internal team in terms of the marketing side of things.
Yeah.
Where is it that you need the most help, would you say? That
So I don't have a big marketing team. We're a growing business, so I don't have a team that's big enough to give me the in-house resource. So I cannot possibly deliver everything the business needs myself and with my small team. So I need to outsource that so that I can work flexibly and scale up and scale down as the demands kind of change throughout the year. So I would say, there are times of the year when I could be on the phone to Transform a lot. And then there are other times of the year that maybe you don't hear from me so much. So it's having that flexibility. But I think we have in the relationship and in the contract we have together, I sort of have a certain amount of time with you, and we use that throughout the year. So that ability to scale up and scale down is really important. I think when you're a growing business, I was kind of trying to think of an analogy about this, and it's a bit of a miserable one. But if you're ill and you go to the doctor and you don't really know what's wrong with you, then they'll go off and you'll have lots of tests and you'll go and see different people with different specialisms. And then when they figure out what it is, then you just go back and see one GP. And I think when you're and I'm sorry, that's a really bad analogy, but when you're starting off on your marketing journey, in a newish business, you don't really know what's going to work and what's not going to work, and you don't know what's going to hit the mark with your clients and your target market. So you have to try loads of different things, and I think that's where we are as a business, being able to come to you because you've got so many different skill sets to say, right, I want to do PR this time, I want to try email campaigns this time, I want to try social media. I could never recruit somebody with all of those skills without restricting the flexibility I have as a head of marketing. So coming to you gives me that flexibility. That's really important. So I think as your marketing matures, then you've kind of, coming back to my GP analogy, you've got the people in-house, you know what you're doing, it ticks along, and you get there and you achieve results. But while we're quite new and inexperienced at this as a business, we have to try different things. We have to have different levers to pull. And that I need that flexibility, and that's what you give me. So I can call on the different people in your team when I need different things to try different things for our business.
It's always a school day here at Transform because we've got so many different skill sets here. There are 15 people here now at Transform, and everybody has their individual roles and their responsibilities and their specialisms. And even for me as a business owner and director here, there's always something that I learn on a daily basis.
But I think also for our business, yes, you have all of those different skills, but we are not an easy business to understand. No. And the people we are talking to, are very varied. And so because you have a maturity as a business and the type of people you have in your business, you understand. You've come on the journey with me, because when I joined, I didn't understand it either. And we've gone on it together to really get under the skin of what this business is about. So you understand that complexity, and you have the right people. You have intelligent people in your business who understand.
Thank you.
A very difficult market, which is what I'm in.
I think that's the exciting part of what we do, is that we get to work with organizations like your own, but across many different sectors and industries. And every day is a school day again when we're out in the marketplace. That's what really gets me up in the morning. And what it does do is give you great pub talk or party talk. If you go to a wedding or something, there is always something to talk about, or you meet somebody and say, I work in renewable energy. Okay. And you can go off on that tangent. The same with the legal sector. I meet people out and about. And what do you do? I'm a lawyer. I'm going to the IBA in Paris with Jacob Aitken in October. It's and that's what I love about what we do, is that ability to be able to wear different hats and learn different things on a daily basis. What would you say your marketing journeys are for the next 12 and 24 months at the stage where you are in your business now? And I'm sorry to throw that curveball question in. We haven't prepped you on that in any way, shape or form. But where would you say you are now and where you want to be? Let's position it as that instead. That's probably an easier way to.
So I think, shall I go first?
Yeah, by all means. I'll give you 2 minutes to think about it.
I think we are very much in a test and learn phase. So we have tried different things to try and hit our target market. And, we'll admit some of them didn't land, some of them didn't work. We're trying other things. So I would like to think in the next 12 to 18 months, we will have hit and found a rhythm that works for us. And we have tried lots of things. We've honed down. We're becoming more focused on what we need to do. And I would like to think that over the next 18 months, we'll really have got this rhythm and beat in terms of what we're doing, who we're targeting, events we need to go to, exhibitions we need to attend. When is the right thing to talk about certain things? So we'll have that, and I think we'll be on a more of a steady course.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we will be. But always in our business, because of what we do, world events can completely change what we're talking about, who we're talking to them about. So, we've always got to be ready to respond to something quite challenging to talk about.
Yeah, exactly that. And what would you say the key learnings or let's use the word mistakes over the last 2 years. That I'll be bold and put that one out there.
Okay.
Where have we got it right? Where have we got it wrong? And this is between us both.
Between us. Okay. Yeah. So I think where we've got it right, and one of the best things we did. So when I joined the business, there were 20 people in the business, and I would ask those 20 people what the business did, and they'd all give me a different answer. And so I said, okay, so if we all go to a networking event where we're trying to land who we are, every different person will have met somebody from our business, will go away with a different story as to what we do. So we have to get that right. And we had budgeted and programmed to do a rebrand of the business a little bit later than we did. And I think the best thing we did was to bring that really early on in the process. And when I talk about a rebrand, I don't mean a change of color or logo, though that was the end point of it. I meant, we did a lot of workshops internally with the people in the business to get under the skin of what is it that we do? How do we define it? What are our strengths? What are our key signature actions? And now people should be able to go away and everybody speak the same language and say the same thing, which is about a very complex world. Though I did find some stuff yesterday that had gone out, which was completely not what we agreed we were going to say. But, at least we have a point to come back to. So I think within the first 9 months of being in the business, I'd launched 3 brands. Yeah. But that was really important to get that right, because we have brand books. I see them on people's desks. They refer to them. This is who we are. The things we got wrong is that we tried to land our offer and our proposition through cold email marketing. And that just didn't work. Yeah. So we got our target sectors right. We knew who was going to buy our products and services, but we tried to do this mass market thing. And hindsight is a great thing. And I should have realized that our brand identity wasn't strong enough for our messages to land. Yeah. And now we don't really do any cold email marketing. We do email marketing, but it's to people who know, who've engaged with us, who already see the value of what we do. So in talked about test and learn, that was a definite test and learn for us. Yeah. It might be as our brand becomes more mature, we go back to colder email marketing to our target sectors. But at the moment, that's not right for us.
No, absolutely. I think in any business or organization's journey, brand awareness is key to marketing and keeping that brand awareness and consistency out in the marketplace.
We're starting to see a little bit more traction with cold email campaigns than we did. There was a period where we did it and just nothing happened. We didn't get anything back at all. And now we're at that point where the sort of percentage of inquiries we get is still very, very small, because you're sending out thousands and thousands of emails for a dozen. But actually, from our point of view, that's a big change. The fact that we are getting inquiries back, and we're getting those inquiries back because we have a visible market presence, and that visible market presence is the result of the marketing that we've been doing with Transform over the past 3 years, building our brand awareness, making sure that we are visible now. 3 years ago, we were invisible. I mean, there is a whole sea change. Dan, I think if I just go back to your previous question, if I may, about
please,
what our challenges are going forward, and then also sort of what our mistakes have been. So I think for us, it's going to be about balance over the next 12 months, 24 months. Because we're now moving into that space where we want to continue using an external marketing agency. We're absolutely, adamant about that, because we've seen such value in services that Transform has provided to us in the last 3 years.
Thank you.
But we also are very aware that we're at a size whereby we have to have an internal marketing capability. We have 60 people, and we need part of that function to be run internally, for the internal team to be completely plugged into our cycle. What happens over the course of the year, because our whole business model is based around external deadlines that are set by the legal directories, and we have to build our whole marketing story around making sure we get in front of the right people in the lead up to the US cycle, the Middle East cycle, the Latin American cycle, Asia Pacific cycle, etc. So I think having that bit led internally, and having that internal team plugged into also what we're doing in terms of our internal marketing back to our team, which helps with retention and everything else. marrying those two is going to be the challenge for us, I think, over the next 12, 24 months. I don't think it's impossible by any means. I think we fully see it as the way forward. We wouldn't be embarking on it if not. But I think it's just nailing down that real hybrid model and making sure that there's some cost control around that, because we're looking at the external and the internal, making sure it just doesn't spiral out of control. I think in terms of mistakes, these are not recent mistakes, but I just wanted to mention a couple of mistakes that we have made over the course of our marketing journey, because we're still a relatively young company. We were founded in 2015. Took us a couple of years to really get to the point when, we were generating enough revenue to be sort of a serious entity, I guess. So we really are young in that respect. We try to run some marketing or implement some marketing initiatives ourselves, thinking, how difficult can it be? How difficult can it be to organize an event, get a load of people to come along and listen to us talk about, how much we know and how wonderful we are. Surely this is a great opportunity for people. We organized an event in London and we didn't get a single person sign up to the event, and that was because we were a bit naive and we thought, event management, setup, it can't be too difficult. And I think, what we've learned working with you guys since is that you need a much more structured approach, a much more organized approach. You need to start this stuff a long time in advance. Yep. You need the brand awareness in there first. You need the visibility and the market positioning in there first before you can expect to embark on these sorts of initiatives. So I think there was stuff where we just, having not had experience in it, thought that there was a shortcut, and sometimes there just aren't shortcuts. And I think the other example, which is again about trying to take shortcuts as a fledgling business, we built a website, for example, by outsourcing it abroad, to trying to do it on the cheap. And it worked okay, but within a year or so, it really was virtually unusable. And trying to update it, the whole sort of the tech structure on which it was built, and I can't claim to understand anything about that, but for whatever reason, it just was virtually impossible for us to manage it. And your website needs to be something that you can constantly update and manage, and we built something that was medieval in that in that respect. So again, with hindsight, and you're talking about hindsight, and it's a wonderful thing. If we'd have known everything we know on the back of working with you guys, or with Transform Communications, even a year into our relationship, let alone the 3 years that we have, we wouldn't have tried to do those things on the cheap ourselves, creating shortcuts. But you live and learn, and I think we've done that, and you can't expect to go through those stages of business growth without making some mistakes.
100%. Yeah, I don't think anybody can claim to be perfect in business, and I think from my learnings, from not just from a marketing side and perspective, but many areas, is that we've tried to do things on the cheap in the past ourselves. But if I need a new CRM system, I've got a tech background. It's a waste of my time trying to build a CRM system when I can go out to the marketplace where there are fantastic ones available. I won't mention any names and play around with the competition there. But at times that you just have to bite the bullet, spend a little bit of money, because what is worth more, your time or the money? And if you can deploy yourselves and your team more effectively in other areas, then allow them to go and do that. And that's a real key of one of the things we do work with organizations, is that we become an integral part of their organizations. And I lose count of the amount of Christmas parties and do's we get invited to now. And back in the day, many years ago, we were able to attend the majority. Now it would be physically impossible. But that is such an honor when you get that call to say, we want you there at our Christmas party because you're part of us and a part of our team. I know the answer to this, so but more so for the benefit of the audience. And Jake, I'm going to put you on the spot slightly. What do you outsource to Transform?
That is a good question. A huge amount, because, as I mentioned earlier, when we started using you 3 years ago, effectively we were outsourcing everything that we decided we should be doing to you. So content creation across a plethora of platforms, including video content, white papers, the email campaigns, marketing campaigns that we talked about briefly before, digital marketing generally. So, we've done a website rebuild with you. We've done a lot of social media work with you, and we've got real traction on social media, which has been great, combining the great content and the great content production and the social media as well. Design generally, I think, making sure that everything is consistent and aligned with our brand.
The new brand as well.
New brand. Rebranding. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anything else that I'm missing on that list?
I think the list could go on for quite a while if we were going into it. But as you say, there's a great mix there now, that what we do with Rob and the team internally and what we do, leaning more on our heavy specialist areas like the video and things like that. And Jenny, same question. Where do we add the value for you, would you say, and what's easier to outsource or supplement your?
So we're a very small team. So I would say I would do the planning and understand the market, who we want to target. So I would perform the typical head of marketing director role, setting the strategy, writing the plan. Then there are some things that we do in-house and, learned in-house from scratch to do, because we have a small budget and we have to make that go as far as we can. So in-house, I would write copy. I would decide on the structure of the website, what we want in the website, but I would come to you to build and design the website. So there's a certain amount we can do in-house, but not a lot. I would, so when we were doing the email marketing, I would probably write some of the copy. I know, we wrote the copy together for that. So social media, so we use primarily LinkedIn. So LinkedIn campaign planning and buying, I definitely need your expertise on that, and the design of the creative. I think we do a lot of thought leadership and report writing. So where they are very creative and we're now building campaigns on the back of them, that's where I use your expertise. Probably in the last 6 months, I've used you more for PR. So how do we get the right stories out to the right publications, and synopses planning and all of that. General design, and I've probably forgotten something really important. The video, of course, the content, which we kind of plan out quite in advance, don't we? So we might do kind of a block every year, every 6 months, and then reuse that content. And your creative is, over and above anything we can do in-house.
Thank you.
In terms of the creative for around our big thought leadership, annual reports, that kind of stuff.
I would just add to that, we are very clear internally that there are elements of our overall marketing plan that we are not trying to take in-house. It's absolutely clear internally that stuff needs to stay with Transform, because you're going to do it much better than we could hope to do it. I think, as you alluded to earlier, unless we are planning to build a marketing team of half a dozen to a dozen people, which is not part of our plan, then that is the reality. The reality has to be that we leverage on what we have internally, and we leverage on the expertise, that you provide externally. And we're not going to try and start producing high-end video content internally. It just would make no sense for us to start on the journey of learning how to do that. And it obviously makes complete sense to do that externally. So and I keep going back to it, but for us, it's going to just be that balancing of making sure that we're using the right people to do the right things, right people in the right places to do the right things.
Yeah, we did interesting. It's something you said there. We did an analysis with a client about 6 months ago around. So they were trying to weigh up their spend, their marketing budget, and I think their spend at the time was about £120,000 a year in terms of their outsourced marketing costs. And they said, right, can we sit down and go through everything you do and who does that, and how that would then reflect if we were to recruit internally to supply all of those services. And for them to have taken on the amount of people and the resource to be able to deliver what we deliver for them on a yearly basis, it would have been a £400,000 to £450,000 spend per year in terms of internal costs to recruit, whereby we were delivering all of that at a fraction of that cost. Absolute no-brainer to most.
I think coming back to what you were saying, I think we are fairly similar in the terms of our marketing kind of the language that we use, our understanding of marketing and the role that's going to play. So I think we're probably quite similar in that we know our audience, we know what we think is going to work, and we approach it with some degree of either expertise or experience. And I think if you're a business owner with less marketing awareness, you would make quite different choices. And I think we therefore use Transform in quite similar ways.
I think there is the old adage of you don't know what you don't know as well. And we quite often go into businesses or an organization with a business owner or a CFO or whoever it may be. And we say, right, what are you looking to? What are your objectives? Where do you want to be in 3 or 5 years? And how do you think you're going to get there? And they tell us one thing, and then the actual reality is completely the opposite. And it might be that there's, one partner in the business is saying we want to do this, and the other is saying a completely different thing again. You go, right, so
which is it?
Which is a problem. You need to align for one, and then how are you going to meet these goals and objectives? Because you're saying you want to exit in 3 years. You're saying you want to, acquire other businesses. How does this work, and how does this align? And what do you need to do to get that? It's the strategy behind that to actually make it work. I'm just conscious of time, and we haven't had any questions from the audience thus far. So I'm going to open this discussion up, if that's okay. And if anybody in the audience has any questions, please feel free to type into the box. I will be looking at my laptop slightly to the right of me to be able to answer those questions for you. But does anybody have anything that they would like to ask myself, Jenny, or Jake, in terms of their goals, pains, challenges that they're experiencing? Okay, so question here, how does outsourced marketing affect the internal team, whether that's team structure, capacity, and so on? From our perspective, from an agency side, I would say that it actually complements and adds to an internal team. And it's really key for us as an agency that we become an integral part to your team. If we don't have that level of trust between each other as people and businesses, and the honesty of what you are trying to achieve, it's very difficult to then be able to deliver and meet the objectives and goals that you want to. When Veronica Hannon, my business partner here at the Transform Group of companies, or Sally, one of our account directors, go into an organization from a strategy point of view, into what we call a deep dive session, we will ask incredibly personal questions sometimes. And at times we can be sat with a board of directors that go, whoa, why do you need to know the answer to that? And it might be around, are you looking to exit, or when are you looking to exit? And sometimes the backs go up and go, we don't want to answer that question. If we don't know the answer to that, we cannot do our job in the best possible way. So going back to the question in how does it affect structure and capacity, it's releasing your people within your organizations to do what they do best. Let us do the heavy lifting on video. Let us do the heavy lifting on SEO and the things that you might not have the specialisms in-house to do. And then allow your people internally to go off and do what they do best, or do something different or differently, so that you can maximize your return. Another question here from Jasper. Thank you. Can Jenny or Jake give us any idea of the ROI they get from Transform?
Oh,
ouch.
It's a very tricky one. No, I was thinking about this earlier.
I'm glad you were.
I didn't come up with any sensible answers, but I was thinking about what we really are looking for in an external marketing agency. And I came up with, I guess, 3 sort of main things. One was understanding sector-specific knowledge and trust, which is something we covered earlier. I think the second thing was momentum, because I think it's very easy if we if we're not, if everything's internal, for us just to lose momentum and for the marketing just to slip and be deprioritized. And then the third point was return on investment. And I think those are the three things that for me really govern the value we're getting out of and what we're looking for from our marketing agency. But of course, it is notoriously difficult to measure in marketing. It's incredibly difficult for us to say to you, right, come here and give us the figures that show that these various initiatives that you have recommended or that you have, that you've endorsed and are working. Some are easier than others. Some of the
digital landscape,
digital stuff, it is easier. You can see, and we can clearly see over time, the amount of interaction, number of followers we have, and number of interactions we have with posts has gone up hugely. I mean, it was virtually nothing when we started working with you, and it's now off the chart, which is great. Some of it is anecdotal. I think some of it just sort of happens. So we have been at conferences recently where we've had competitors come up to us and say to us, the content you produce is just great. We don't know how you do it, and we use that same content ourselves, which shows that content is reaching the wider market, and it's even reaching clients of our competitors through some of our competitors, and so there is return on investment there just through us having those conversations at conferences and events and actually hearing that yes, we are out there. And it's similar, I think. It's sometimes we get inquiries from clients and we always ask, how they have found us. And that increasingly they will say, we've seen what you're doing on social media. We've seen some of your articles, your best practice papers, your white papers. And again, whether or not those same law firms would have reached out to us 3 years ago, I suspect probably not, because they just probably would not have known that we existed.
There's something actually we haven't discussed today, and you just reminded me of it now when you're talking about content and reach, Jake. And marketing is also about client retention, but also employee retention and attraction from both sides. And I know that there was a particular hire in your business in the last 8 months. Somebody came to you and said, I've watched all of your videos on YouTube, and as a result of that, I want to work for your organization.
I was very shocked in that interview process, just because, it firstly reminds you that you have all this amazing content there, and it is there, it stays there, and anyone searching for information about your company, comes up with all this great content. And I was a bit shocked that they had taken the time, I guess, to do that. And simply because if in a similar interview process, for similar role 2 years ago, if anyone had gone to look up our company, what we do, they would have been able to find very, very little information out there. It would have been, it would have looked a far less well-developed and sort of professional place to work. So I think, all of that is critical in terms of hiring and from a retention perspective as well. And our staff actually enjoy getting involved in, or our team members, enjoy getting involved in some of these initiatives. They've been here to record videos, and it gives them something else that is beyond just the day-to-day of what their roles entail. Actually getting involved in putting the company out there, putting our name and brand out there. We have some staff who are quite passionate about that, and it's great to get them involved.
Can I take a quick shot at the ROI question? I've had time to think about it.
Please.
So I think that we are both, we're offering services. So it's quite difficult, I think, and we're working on brand awareness. So it's quite, unless you're doing an ongoing brand monitor, it's really difficult to measure the effectiveness. So when we did our email campaigns, which didn't work and yours didn't work, then we said our ROI was on from Transform was we all learned something, but it wasn't great. So I think, in terms of measuring that effectiveness, it's around measuring what was my start point in terms of followers on LinkedIn or interactions or engagement with my social media posts or whatever. And then looking at that post campaign to see how those have improved. So I don't have any figures for Jasper. Was it Jasper who asked the question? But I think that, we're in a slightly different world. We're not pilot high, sell it quick products. We're offering quite complex services. It's quite difficult to measure that.
Yeah. couple of more questions coming up. I'm conscious we've got 6 minutes left. So we've got a question here that says, when you've got a mix of internal teams and external support, how do you ensure that everything is integrated? Very good question. So when we as Transform lay out a strategy for an organization, everything is line items. So every single activity is line items, and everything that we do is integrated. So a video might become part of a blog series, and it might become part of a LinkedIn campaign. It might become part of an email campaign. When we lay our strategies out, we have ownership and responsibility as to who is going to be doing or actioning that particular thing. So it might be that in a full strategy, we've got email campaigns, but that might be the ownership of the company that we are working for and with. They might be writing and deploying that, but the video content that we create to go into that is produced by us and handed over by us. So it's just, again, about having those weekly catch-ups. Our phones are always on. Anybody can call us anytime, but it's about having those weekly catch-ups, the account management, the integration, and sticking and working to that plan and strategy. But everything has a flex. Things move, things change. So, and we know and appreciate that.
Can I add something very quickly? I know we've only got a couple minutes left, but I think, and this is the case with all of the external service providers that we use across a range of areas, to support our business. Yes, we want that integration. We want the team to work well, there to be clarity on process and structure. But I mentioned this before, but I think we are always looking for our external service providers to provide impetus and momentum and to give us a kick when we need a kick to actually just get things moving.
Yeah.
And we have that at the forefront of our minds when we're providing our services as a marketing company to law firms. We don't want them coming to us saying, what's next, guys? We want to be there, knocking on their door saying, right, we're ready to move ahead with this. This is what we need to start in the next few weeks. Your deadline for this event, let's get this moving early. And I think the service providers that we've held on to, and we've dropped a few along the ways in different areas of our business, are those that are providing that momentum, and are behind us. When they see that we're buried and super busy, they're still there saying, I'm putting this to the top of your inbox because we just need a decision on it to get it out. And I think that's absolutely critical.
Thank you. From Craig Fell, so Jenny and Jake, is the ultimate goal to bring all of your day-to-day marketing functions in-house, or would you always envisage using outsourced support? I think we've covered some of that today, but I'll allow you to.
Never bring it all in-house. I in the whole of my career, I don't think I've ever had a fully in-house team. Because you need that flexibility, you definitely need that creativity and those fresh ideas, and you can get stale if it's just you and an in-house team and you're quite insular. You're looking at your business and you need that fresh take on the market, what everybody's doing. So I was reflecting on this when I was kind of thinking about what we were going to talk about. It's a balance. It's always a balance between having the in-house expertise who really understand the business and the business objectives and can translate that into marketing and client speak or customer speak to an agency to get the best for your client. So I think it's always a mix.
Completely agree.
Question from Jason. Is there any area of marketing that you would ever advise against outsourcing to an agency, particularly for security reasons? And that's for Jenny and Jake, that question.
There is some work that we do that we have to do in-house. And because of what we do, we deliberately chose an agency that wasn't based anywhere there'd be too much chatter about what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of country lanes to get to your offices. So yes, there are some things that we have to do in-house for sensitivity issues, but everything else is pretty much, I think I'm happy to send out to you.
Yeah, I think everything we can send out. There are some things we choose to do internally just because we think it makes more sense to have certain aspects of our plan with use and initiatives and certain things internally, but there's no reason why we couldn't outsource anything. Okay.
Can I add one thing that I've kind of been milling on? And I think when we have these discussions, we talk a lot about outsourcing, and it's about us sort of giving tasks to people to help with our marketing plan.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I think we work quite well together, is that when I went out on my own, I realized that I had nobody with more marketing experience than me to bounce my ideas off, apart from my network from my career. And don't think that using an agency is just about delivering marketing projects or campaigns. Also use it for that additional thinking and planning, which is, I think, where, you know, you and Ronnie come in. It's, you know, help me with my strategy, challenge me a bit, push me a bit, and think about it from both ends, because that's when you really get some value.
Yeah, I meant to mention that earlier. I think that third party, external, objective perspective on, right, we've got this great idea, transform, what do you think about it? And actually having, you know, an objective perspective on it and some guidance on it, and say, well, it's a great idea, but it's not going to work if we do it like this. This is the way we will get it to work. It's
that outside in view, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Being able to test yourselves and challenge yourselves. We do the same. Ronnie and I do the same with our business, with external consultants and things. And on a quarterly basis, we'll bring somebody in to really challenge and test us. Are we doing the right thing? Are we, you know, is this the right move, whether it's financial or from a recruitment perspective or whatever it may be.
And that's why the trust is so important.
Yes.
We need to know if we take something to you and you're going to give us an opinion on whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, or how the implementation might or might not work. We need to trust that you really understand our sector, our business, and you know what our target audience or how they will receive that particular initiative.
Just one last question before we go. I appreciate we're on 12 o'clock from Louise. Is it better to have a small in-house team rather than just one individual, as well as working with an outside agency? I think there are two answers to that, if I'm completely honest. It depends on the size of the organization. It depends on the size of the program, as in the marketing program that you're looking to run. And it depends on the ability and capability of that person in-house, whether it's one or several. What I would say is it is absolutely essential to have somebody, at least one or two or three people on the inside of your business for us to be able to work with, because it is that person to sign off, to prove, to, again, test us and challenge us as we would equally challenge you. So on that note, we're a minute over. I'd really like to thank Jenny and Jake for your time today. It's much appreciated to come here to Transform Towers, to have this great conversation. I'm going to take these guys for lunch now, and I'd like to thank you all also for attending and giving us an hour of your time. Thank you ever so much. Take care. Bye-bye.